Welcome to the Monday edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 164, and we're going to talk about inside church stuff, the real polity, border crossing. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. Today's March 2nd, 2015.
Welcome to the Monday edition of Anglican Unscripted, and we have a meaty topic, and we really want to be sure that our viewers have drinking their coffee, that you've got out the fog of the weekend, because this is called Inside Baseball or Inside Football, where we're going to talk about polity, which for 95% of you, you're going to love what we're going to talk about. For 5% of you who just want news and don't really want the inside analysis, this is kind of going to be kind of boring for you. George and I have, within the last past year, maybe 2 years, called the end of the Communion. We called the end of Lambeth. We called the end of the Primates meeting. We're now about ready to call for the end of the Church of England. And, well, how can you say that? That the Mother Church isn't going to flip over and die? Well, not overnight, but over time. And it's going to start slowly. And we kind of saw this happen last December, and we're seeing some of the ramifications now with border crossing. What's border crossing? Border crossing is when a priest or a bishop go into somebody else's diocese and perform a sacramental function or set up a church or do something that they were not given permission to by the bishop of that diocese. And it can be pretty serious. And I think, George, you can speak to the seriousness of this.
Kevin, the Methodist movement was not accommodated by the Church of England.
Mm-hmm.
The Wesley brothers, Whitfield, all remained ministers of the Church of England, yet their followers were not welcomed because Wesley would go and preach where the people were, and he did not honor parish boundaries. He did not get the permission of the local rector or the bishop. And we saw a great loss to the Anglican world by the falling away of Methodism. Now, Methodism in England itself is all but dead, but in the United States, it's 4 or 5 times larger than the Anglicans in the Episcopalian world. On December, I think it was 4th or 6th, early December, a bishop, honorary assistant bishop of Winchester, John Ellison, retired bishop of Paraguay, performed a service of commissioning and thanksgiving for a new church plant, Christ Church in Salisbury. What he did not do was do this with the permission of the Bishop of Salisbury, Nicholas Holtham. And in this past week, Bishop Holtham has asked for, quote, clarification from Bishop Ellison as to what was going on. Because on its face, Bishop Ellison has violated the canons of the Church of England, and this is akin to what has happened in the United States. Do you remember when Bishop Cox went out to Kansas to perform confirmations on behalf of Henry Arambe? Well, for doing that, Bishop Cox was kicked out of the House of Bishops and deposed by Catherine Jefferts Shorey.
Well, I remember the Windsor report said that border crossing was just as serious as heresy. It equated those. And so within the church and within bishops and within my life, I don't want competition or whatnot. Border crossing defense is understandable.
If you're Bishop Oldham, now Bishop Oldham is a liberal, but what this is saying is that you're not considered a valid Christian bishop, that you are just a failure and a fraud or all the things we clergy secretly worry about at
Yes,
night. And so this is personally insulting and upsetting. But if you take the personal element out of this, the need was felt to evangelize Salisbury. Because as the vicar of Christ Church, or rector of Christ Church, the new plant Matthew Mason tells us, only 1% of the people go to church there. So arguing over Matthew Mason, his point is that arguing over jurisdiction when people are being lost and forever falling away from the saving knowledge of Jesus Christ because we're dithering over how we divide up territory, that's an abomination. So I can see I can see both sides clearly. I can see the personal hurt of Bishop Oldham, and I can see the crying need for this work to be done.
Well, people are asking, well, what on earth does this have to do with the breakup of the Church of England? Well, this new church plant is not a Church of England church plant. It's from the AMIE, the Anglican Mission in England. And that was actually started by GAFCON. So all of a sudden, the majority of the primates of the Anglican Communion are having influence through border crossing in the Church of England.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can open up a storefront church and do whatever and say whatever they want to do. Christ Church can call itself Anglican and can point to the GAFCON movement as being its source of episcopal and doctrinal oversight. You can't just dismiss them as just being a bunch of people starting up their own little church. This is part of the worldwide Anglican Communion, but it's not part of the Church of England. And in its October 2013 meeting in Nairobi, Kenya, the GAFCON primates and the GAFCON meeting itself gave its formal blessing to this program. Now, they've held back for about a year and a half because I believe in part they wanted to give Justin Welby a chance to perform. And Justin has sadly not performed to their expectations. So we've got on an Anglican level, we have an open violation of the norms of how we are supposed to deal with each other and work with each other. And it's not just some local guy having a spat with his bishop. This guy has the backing all the way up the chain to a Bishop Ellison, who is in turn backed by Archbishop Wabakula and Tagali, Oko, and so on and so forth. So we've got a split within the Anglican world. Now, why do we say, why is this akin, why? Kevin, do you remember
Yes.
Monday Night Football?
Oh, my goodness,
In
yes.
the good times with Dandy Don Meredith, Frank Gifford, and Howard Cosell.
Yes. Well,
Part of Dandy Don's job at the game was to call the end. I don't mean when the time ran out, but at a certain point, Dandy Don would break into the Willie Nelson song, "Turn out the lights, the party's over." That would be when there's a half hour left and the Saints were down by 45 points to the Cowboys, and they would start reeling up the cables and everything like that.
yeah, running the credits. We want to thank our sponsors, that type of thing, and thank our control room. Well, we are to that point because this whole thing throws a monkey wrench into the workings of the Church of England. Now, the Church of England has successfully planted churches under the Alpha movement, under
But even before we go there, Kevin,
yeah,
we need to sort of widen this out because people can say, oh, well, people have always been predicting the imminent demise of the Church of England. Why is this special? Why is Christ Church Salisbury special? We had the Ordinariate. Now, that robbed the Church of England of its best and brightest Anglo-Catholic minds, to the effect that now Forward in Faith, I don't
Right.
want to say it's in bed with a gay lobby, but some people will say that it's in bed with a gay lobby.
it's a rumor.
It's a rumor. We need to look at the bigger picture. You've had people like the Bishop of Truro say that his diocese has 4 or 5 financial years left before they run out of money. There's a tremendous physical, financial crisis looming. Secondly, we're going to see a change in government this summer, and we're going to most likely see a liberal,
Government.
not liberal party,
Yeah.
but a liberal, the Labor Party in coalition with the Greens. And just as we've seen over the past generation, the House of Lords change utterly from what it once was, and the British Constitution and the wholesale changing of the fabric of British institutional life change, my guess is that we'll see the disestablishment of the Church of England. Maybe not be next year, but it's going to happen. So financial crises, political crises, and coupling with that inter-Anglican crises of authority. Do you remember Canon Porter, Justin Welby's Canon for Reconciliation,
Sure.
when he had that private conversation with Colin Coward, which Colin thankfully replicated around the world on his blog? One of the things Canon Porter said is that now the Church of England is considered by the wider communion the problem province. So it's not just George and Kevin are, lining up the connecting the dots. All the evidence is there: political, financial, ecclesiological. Things aren't too good.
Well, I think,
Now I interrupted you. You jump back. What were you going to say about?
I think, well, in the past there has been successful church planting. Holy Trinity Brompton has planted churches even by permissional border crossing. The bishop, the Diocese of London, and stuff like that. There have been people who've worked within the system, but just like the Wesleyans, there comes a point where this is ridiculous. I'm not being able to bring people to Christ because of the red tape and the bureaucracy. And I think at this point, AMIE can go in there without the bureaucracy and start setting up churches that bring people back to Christ. And
see, Kevin, I'm predicting the demise of the Church of England. I'm not quite so certain as to predict the success of the AMIE.
No, yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay, why?
First off, okay, folks, you wanted to hear it, you're going to get it. Kevin, you're absolutely right about Holy Trinity Brompton. They've been given permission to go in and revitalize churches, send in their own clergy, send in a few families to seed the place, and they've been wildly successful. First within the Diocese of London. More recently, they've been successful in Brighton, which is in the Diocese of Chichester, and up in Norwich, Diocese of Norwich, where they have gone in with the permission of the bishop, revitalized a existing building and congregation. And the church in Brighton, I think, has got over 1,000 people in it on a Sunday.
Amazing.
It's a fantastic. It had a flattering profile in The Economist magazine recently. That's done within the system. Christ Church Salisbury is the same exact thing, but it's not done within the system, and it doesn't use a Church of England building. Is Holy Trinity Brompton going to want to throw in its lot with the AMIE? I don't know.
Yeah,
the Anglo-Catholics have been split out by the Ordinariate. The English traditional conservative or evangelical or Catholic movements have no common leader.
Yeah.
There's no Bob Duncan there, if you will. There's no Keith Ackerman who can appeal across diocese. What there is, his name is Michael Nazarelli, but he hasn't been given the authority by the groups in the grounds to act as their voice. So I'm predicting the demise of the Church of England, but I'm not predicting what's going to replace it.
Yeah, that would be interesting because, and I have to agree with you there. This is the first step by AMIE, and we'll have to see what happens over time. If this is successful, congratulations. Is the world over if the Church of England goes dormant and is replaced by something that works? No. That's just part of how God uses our failures to still bring the good news to people. Well, that's our Monday show. It's 13 minutes of inside polity. George, what's your week up to?
Well, I think I'm going to write a letter to Justin Welby and recommend that he do a chapter, not a Chapter 7 liquidation, but a Chapter 13 reorganization.
Yes.
Because that really is where the Church of England right now, they really need all these little fancy, well, let's set up an executive high flyer college and lead us out by management MBA technique, all that, excuse me, I'm going to use a 4-letter word. All that crap is just not going to go anywhere. But this week, Kevin, I have clergy meetings. I have to go every first Wednesday of the month. The priests and new cures have to go down to Orlando to learn how to be good priests, and so I'm going to learn not to molest small children and not to steal from the church discretionary fund, things like that.
That's good.
I didn't know most of this stuff,
Well, it's interesting because today is it's March 2nd. It's the first day that you had to use AC.
Yep, we've got the air conditioning on. You can hear it rumbling.
Yeah.
It's in the low 80s right now, but it's humid.
Wow.
But it is spring break. And wow, half-naked teenagers.
We don't have that. We still have people in polar jackets, and the plow just went by because we got our standard 6 last night, another 6 inches on the ground. We could be weatherman with the contrasting differences between Florida and Connecticut. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm George Conger. And you've been watching episode 164 of Anglican Unscripted.